All right, he's Jason Cole, covers the NFL for Bleacher Report, and made me curious about Peyton Manning's status. Jason, I thought about this yesterday when I heard that John Elway and Peyton Manning were going to get together to discuss next year, and I'm thinking, is this Peyton's choice or is it John Elway's choice? Enlighten me on that.
Well, I'm not exactly sure. I think that both sides would probably like to paint it that it's their choice. So I'm not sure exactly who I would believe in that one. But I will say this. Ultimately, the choice of whether Peyton plays next year for the Broncos, at least, is in the hands of John Elway more than it is in the hands of Peyton Manning. Now, Peyton is probably going to express, I'd like to come back and play and all those kinds of things because every indication is that he's going to come back. He's working with Mackie Shilstone in New Orleans. The New Orleans Times-Picayune has reported that. But I think that John Elway, and while he has said publicly that he thinks that Peyton can play for another year, and he said that in their postseason press conference, I think he's going to really want to hear from Peyton, how is your health? How do you feel? Where are you really? Because the Peyton Manning we saw basically over the second half of the season and into the playoffs looked like a guy who was on a serious slide.
What do you think Plan B is for the Broncos?
I don't think there's a really strong Plan B other than you've got Brock Osweiler waiting in the wings. Maybe you hope that something odd happens, like a Sam Bradford gets let go by the Rams, which I don't think is going to happen at the end of the day, or somehow you're able to work your way up in the draft for one of the top guys, or you happen to think that somebody like Brett Hundley can be your next guy. So I think that that's ultimately why I think overwhelmingly in my mind Peyton Manning does come back for another year. But I do think that there are some careful considerations to make because, again, the Peyton Manning that we all saw, especially the one in Cincinnati, that throw off his back foot to Drake Kirkpatrick that gets returned for the game-clinching touchdown return, that was a guy who looks like he's gun-shy. That was a guy who looks like he's been hit a few too many times. And I saw the same thing with Dan Marino at the end of his career. Eventually, the greatest, the toughest of them, speaking of heavyweight boxers, even the toughest guys in boxing eventually flinch.
Why don't we have an update on the Patriots story with Deflategate?
I don't know exactly, other than they're taking their time, and they're probably doing all these Ted Wells, Robert Mueller type of, video signature type of things and writing a report. And I don't know why. I will say this. I think ultimately Deflategate is Roger Goodell in the NFL going down a rabbit's hole, a really deep rabbit's hole of gamesmanship. Because we've had the admission by Jerry Rice that he used Stickum. We've had all sorts of other things, people talking about little things that they do on the field. And while I think that you should take rules violations seriously, I think that Deflategate is just so overstated. I mean, how's this different than throwing a spitter in baseball? I just don't quite get it.
Well, you can't throw a spitter now when it used to be legal. Look, I'm right there with you. If you deflated the footballs because it's to your advantage, I understand there's gamesmanship. I know quarterbacks do this, but okay, what is worse? Jerry Rice using Stickum, which was illegal to use, or that the Patriots may have underinflated the footballs they used?
I think they're the same thing. I don't know how to differentiate them, really. And here's my other point in Deflategate is we do all these things in football to make passing easier, right? Like defensive backs can't touch anybody anymore, especially during the regular season, right?
Yeah.
The most essential part of the act of throwing a football is the grip of the ball in your hand. And we're monitoring that this closely. Like we're not making it so that the quarterback is actually comfortable throwing the ball. And we're really this worried about this. I know it's the Patriots, and I know that everybody thinks the Patriots cheat at everything, okay, including, what the yard markers probably look like, okay? But this one is, again, I believe, going down this rabbit's hole of silliness, whereas in other sports, these are sort of minor transgressions that, get a suspension, but not the kind of stuff that we're talking about in this realm.
Yeah, and I don't think that anybody did. They check the footballs in the Super Bowl? Were we okay? Were they up to standards? Because
Yeah, they were fine. He went,
okay.
37-50. Yeah, he was just fine. He was lacing the ball all over the field. He was good.
Finish this sentence. If the Patriots are completely exonerated.
Oh, the New England. They rain hell upon the rest of the country. They just never stop, taunting everybody back. And poor Bob Kravitz will be, I don't know if you can get snowed under in Twitter, but I think that's possible here. I mean, my friend Bob Kravitz, I will feel sorry for him if they're exonerated.
Okay, it sounded like he was backpedaling lightly on his initial story about Deflategate.
No, I think what he reported what he reported what he was told. I think that where Bob is probably backpedaling is everything he did afterwards, where he came out with such vitriol.
Yeah.
And that's where, and this is the problem you have in our day and age, where we sort of toggle back and forth between being news reporters and being opinion creators and makers. Mm-hmm. Look, it's one thing you're supposed to report the story. Let somebody else add the opinion in. But in this day and age, that's disappeared. That line is completely gone, especially for a guy like Bob, who's a columnist by nature. And so he took the initial information and just saying, look, this is what I've been told, this is what I've been reported, you guys go decide what you think about it. He then tells people what they should think about it.
Well, if you separate the two and you just do a hard news report, this is what I've been told, and then if you want to do a column, at least it's your opinion on the column. You've made a report on Deflategate. I think if you combine the two, then Bob is saying it's up to us to interpret what he was trying to say as a columnist and as a reporter, which is not fair to your audience.
Right. I guess we're giving the audience a little bit more level of sophistication and understanding the nuances between reporting news and being an opinion maker, and most people have no clue about that.
Does it hurt, Robert Kraft's relationship with Roger Goodell if the Patriots are completely exonerated? Did that do anything with Goodell's standing?
No, I think that Goodell is fine. Look, Goodell's standing with Kraft is based on the fact that Roger Goodell negotiated a collective bargaining agreement that is going to move $10 billion from the players to the owners over a 10-year period of time. Robert Kraft has no problem with any of that.
Jason, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
No problem.
All right. That's Jason Cole, Bleacher Report.